Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Season 1. Today I'll be talking about the highly anticipated Fantastic Four movie by Marvel Disney. There isn't a whole lot that we know as far as being confirmed by Kevin and Marvel, but this is what we do know so far. It will be directed by John Watts, who, as we know, did the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy. It will be part of the MCU as a movie and not a series. Although, in my opinion, I think a series would be cool as far as fleshing out characters, even if they go the origin route. Um, and with the confirmed characters so far, we do know Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm will be involved. We don't know a villain, but there's all sorts of possibilities that they could go, especially with Doctor Doom being a big fan favorite right now. Galactus could pop up. Annihilus could also be a possibility, which would be kind of cool in introducing the negative zone and whatnot. Super Skrull would be a really cool possibility, especially with Secret Invasion coming out soon with Nick Fury. But my personal choice, I think, would be start from the very beginning, Mole Man, who, as some fans know, is the very first villain the Fantastic Four even came up against as a team. And my casting for that would be Josh Gad. I think he looks the part. He's funny. He could be a cool villain. And I think he just overall knocked that character out of the park and bring some life into that character that maybe not a whole lot of fans even know about the character. Now, as far as the rest of the casting for the Fantastic Four, I think a big favorite right now is John Krasinski, who is my personal favorite. I think he would be a great action star to bring into Marvel, especially with his series of Jack Ryan and 13 Hours that he did with Michael Bay. He's also got the comedic chops from, as you know, Jim Halpert in The Office, who is a fan favorite character on TV. And I think he would overall just be a great leader figure for that team. Another leaked casting was Bill Hader, Kristen Bell as Sue Storm, Josh Gad and Seth Rogen for The Thing in that big Marvel leak that we had a little bit while back. I think that would be cool if they really did a comedic version of this team, but I think what John Krasinski would bring to it would be just a really big, serious tone with that comedic chops, not just a strict, here's a big comedy team. I mean, Christian Bell wouldn't be a terrible Sue Storm, but I think the best route would be Emily Blunt, who, as we know, has declined to be in superhero movies. But I think if John Krasinski was casted as Reed Richards, might persuade her a little bit to eventually accept Sue Storm role. And they just have great chemistry. If you've seen interviews and then their movie Quiet Place, they just have awesome chemistry together. They would be perfect as Marvel's married couple. Another casting rumor that came out for Reed Richards was Timothy Olyphant, which would be cool. He's a great actor. He's a little on the older side, but if they did do an established team, that would be cool to have him as a leader, as a more rugged, experienced superhero. For Sue Storm, there's a lot of possibilities they could do. Jennifer Lawrence's name has been popped up, who we know was Mystique in Fox's X-Men. So she definitely has the experience to be a superhero or as part of a superhero team. Sophie Turner, who we know from Game of Thrones, Sansa, would be a great choice. She's a great actress. She knows dramatic beats very well. She can be funny at times. So she would be a great addition to the Marvel team if they casted her. Now the big one, Johnny Storm, who is my personal favorite of the Fantastic Four. There's been a lot of different casting rumors going around. Zachary Montgomery is a big one, who we know from Stranger Things and then the most recent Power Rangers movie. He would be a great choice. He can play that cocky pretty boy very well, especially in the Power Rangers, being the Red Ranger, that bad boy type figure. Angel Elgort was also brought up, who we know from Baby Driver. He's got that more younger, naive, cocky pretty boy to him, which he would be a great addition to. He's not a very well-known actor, and I think that's what Marvel really tries to strive for, is to bring those up-and-coming actors and just poster them and make them a huge star, just like Tom Holland. Joe Keery, who is also from Stranger Things and Free Guy, has been brought up numerous times. He would be a great addition. He can play that bad boy, cocky, pretty boy also, just like Dacre Montgomery would. Glenn Powell's name has even brought up. But I think for my personal choice for Human Torch would definitely be Zac Efron. Now, he may not be a huge popular choice, but I think he would be a great addition to Marvel. He was rumored for a while to be Adam Warlock, but that was recently casted. So I think Human Torch would be a perfect role for him. He's got the attitude. He's got the acting chops. He's got the look. He could play that really good, cocky, pretty boy as we saw in Baywatch in 17 again. He's got massive range as far as roles, like Greatest Showman, Neighbors, and Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, Vile that he did for Netflix. I think he would have a great chemistry with Emily Blunt as a younger brother, and maybe even somebody that's a pain in the ass for John Krasinski if they ended up casting those two as Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Now for the big guy, Ben Grimm. Like I said before, Seth Rogen, Josh Gad names were brought up, especially Seth Rogen. He was in that most recent leak with Christian Bale and Bill Hader. He would be interesting, I think, as the Thing if they did get Seth Rogen. I mean, he's definitely got acting range. He's been in numerous comedies, so he could definitely bring that comedic beat to the Ben Grimm character. Jesse Plemons from Breaking Bad has also been brought up. John Cena is a big one right now. I doubt they would go with John Cena just because he's so wrapped up in DC with Peacemaker show. But I think the name that keeps coming to mind for me as far as the Ben Grimm Thing character would be Sam Worthington. Now, stay with me. I know that's not a very popular choice for any kind of movie right now. He's been kind of an underrated actor for years since Avatar came out. But I think he would be a great addition to Marvel. He could bring that more experienced acting chops to Marvel. I mean, he was in the global phenomenon Avatar, so he's no stranger to CGI or playing CGI characters. I think his voice in particular to me is appealing to just hear Ben Grimm sound like that. I think he could just knock that role out of the park. I mean, with Hacksaw Ridge, Terminator Salvation, Man on the Ledge, I mean, he's got the definite range to bring some kind of uniqueness to the Ben Grimm role in Marvel. Now, with different villains, like I said, I think Victor Von Doom would be interesting. I think they should save him as a Thanos character, but I wouldn't be mad if they did bring him up. I mean, there's been rumors of Michael Fassbender being Victor Von Doom, which would be a great role for him. I mean, as we know, he was phenomenal as Magneto in Fox's X-Men. I think he would be a great addition to Marvel as a whole if they did cast Victor Von Doom with Michael Fassbender. But going back to Mole Man with Josh Gad, I think that's the best route to do. Josh Gad is just an awesome actor, very comedic. He can play the hell out of every role that he does. And I think Mole Man is just the best route to go, especially if they do an origin. If they do an origin story, I think it's only poetic that they start with the very first comic book villain that the Fantastic Four ever went up against. But if they did do this more established team in Marvel, like similar to what they did with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, where they just used dialogue, flashbacks, what have you, to kind of explain the origins, I wouldn't be mad either. If they did that, maybe Victor Von Doom would be a good villain to introduce slowly, whether it's having him as a background character like they did with Norman Osborn and Garfield's Spider-Man, or Thanos, who was in the background for most of the MCU until Age of Ultron at the end credit scene. But really, I think I could honestly see a Super Skrull popping up, especially with Secret Invasion and Nick Fury. I remember in the old Fantastic Four movie, they somewhat did Super Skrull with Johnny Storm in Rise of the Silver Surfer, which those movies get a lot of hate, but I think it was interesting to see what would happen if they did the Super Skrull route. And I think Marvel could easily knock out the Super Skrull role in these movies. But I think it's a little too early for that. I think especially if they're going to do an origin story, they need to save the Super Skrull until maybe even Secret Invasion, tease it in an end credit scene, which would be awesome. But right now, we don't exactly know when the Fantastic Four movie will be coming out. So maybe the Super Skrull isn't the best character to bring into right now. But as far as other theories, I mean, there's the huge theory with the Avengers Towers becoming Baxter Building, and with Hawkeye's throwaway dialogue in the series on Disney Plus, Tony could have sold the Avengers Tower to Reed Richards. I think that's a very good possibility, and I hope it's true. That would be an awesome Easter egg and a cool callback to the original Avengers movie, which was the first on-screen ensemble movie that just was a surprise to everyone. And I think going back to that, introducing a new team to Marvel would be a really cool callback to it. Another theories that have been popping around the internet were all sorts of cameos and appearances by other Avengers. Spider-Man, I think, would be very cool, especially with John Watts directing, and then his team-ups with the Fantastic Four in the comics would make sense if Spider-Man, whether he pops up as an end credit scene or if he just has a quick 5-minute interaction with the Fantastic Four, that would be very cool. Other ones, as far as cameos, Nick Fury is always a go-to. He just kind of randomly pops up everywhere, so we kind of just expect him to be in everything. But I think with him in Secret Invasion, I don't think that's really on Marvel's plate right now. Skrulls, I mean, that's always a possibility. I mean, for all we know, there's half of our Avengers are Skrulls, which is another interesting fan theory right now, that half of our team is actually Skrulls. Happy Hogan would be a cool one, kind of just, which would make sense with the theory of the Baxter Building and Tony selling it. He could be the kind of the middleman, if that is true. Some other kind of cameo would be maybe even Pepper, if that's true with the Avengers Tower being sold. I think it would be really cool to see her again. I don't think Fantastic Four would be the movie for her to pop up in. They might save that for the Armor Wars series with Rhodey, or even the Ironheart coming out. I think that would be where they would save her. And then other theories, I mean, there could be some other kind of cameo. I mean, we got Mark Ruffalo and Brie Larson and Shang-Chi last year. So, I mean, they could pop up as well. Wong seems to be popping up everywhere. He's also a possibility that I could see kind of bringing in the Fantastic Four, connecting them with Doctor Strange. That would be very, very cool. But as far as other theories, I don't really think I think we're going into this really, really blind, and I enjoy that. I would rather leave this all a surprise, because the Fantastic Four is such a big team, and it's just going to be great. I think the one thing I'm afraid of is that they won't learn from their mistakes from previous films, because as we know, there's been 3 different Fantastic Four movies, 2 different reboots that they did back in 2005 and 2007 with Chris Evans, Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis. Johan Grufford was that team back in the early 2000s, which was very campy, very much a kid-friendly movie, which I don't think is necessarily in Marvel's wheelhouse. So I hope that they bring the good stuff from those movies to the MCU, because there was good stuff in those movies. I mean, Michael Chiklis was pretty great as a Thing. Stan Lee even named him as his favorite character on screen out of all these Marvel movies that we've had over the years. But as far as Silver Surfer, I don't think that's a character that they should bring up yet. And I think back in 2007, it was cool to see him on screen, but I think they should have saved that character for like a third or a fourth movie. They kind of just rushed the rise of Silver Surfer, especially with the Doom character. I didn't really care for their portrayal of the Doom, especially with the electricity. From what my knowledge knows, what I know is that he's a more magic-like character, which I think would be interesting with Doctor Strange being a huge centerpiece of the Avengers right now. If they brought in Doctor Doom and kind of just have that big magic battle later on. So definitely they need to learn from these movies in order to succeed in the MCU as far as Fantastic Four. Now with the 2015 reboot with Michael B. Jordan and Miles Teller, that was just an experiment gone wrong. That should have, I think it was rushed. They should have never made it, but I understand Fox was in a bind. They had to get something out, otherwise they would lose the characters back to Marvel, which I think in our grace, that was probably the best thing that it did come out, was that it was their last-ditch effort to prove that they can't handle these characters. I think in the end, it's going to work very well for Marvel. Fantastic Four is a huge fan favorite team, especially the Johnny Storm character, who I could see pop up everywhere. I mean, he's had team-ups with Spider-Man and other sorts of adventures with the Avengers. So I think what the biggest key for Marvel to do is to look at those three movies and to learn from what Fox did wrong. So with that, I think that'll be it for the show today. Join me next time when I talk about one of the great debates among Marvel fans right now is Infinity War versus Endgame. So go back and rewatch those movies and pick your side for episode 2 coming out next week. I'll go over my thoughts and my rankings after I rewatch them this coming week, and I'll talk about each side of the argument. And also, New Release Monday starts January 31st, and I'll be reviewing Scream 5. So go out to the theaters and check it out.